Hi, my name is Virgil Carter, and I am the body double for Eddie Murphy.
You little bastard! Shoot him, Belter!
I am a body double for the world famous Eddie Murphy. I've been his body double since 1996, so that's about 15, 16 years. A body double is someone primarily that's used in the movie business in place of a star for long distance shots, things that the star does not need to do because it's not a close-up. When they first called me to come to LA to do Dr. Dolittle, I was very excited, and I had to audition for that because they had not seen me. They had only heard I had a resemblance to Eddie. And I had worked on a movie called Metro, but it was just long distance stuff. Dr. Dolittle was a little bit more demanding, and I was going to be seen on film, and they wanted me to have his mannerisms down. So I went that night before they flew me into LA and went to Blockbuster and rented about 4 or 5 Eddie Murphy movies and rewind, fast forward them, writing down monologues because I did theater, so I knew how to do monologues and to be prepared. So I went over all his dialogues, practicing his mannerism. Eddie has certain mannerisms and things that he does, And I went over it the same way he went over characters when he was on Saturday Night Live, just getting people down, Jesse Jackson, James Brown, or whatever. So it became my responsibility to get his mannerisms down, his walk, his talk, and everything about Eddie. So I mastered it. Buddy Love was the hardest. Buddy Love always had this thing with, no, hey, Sherman, do what I tell you to do. He did these things, and all the lines would come out so fast.
Hey, let's just have a meal together. Why you leave? Wait, hey, what you want me to beg you? I get down on my knees, I beg you in front of all these people. I think I can't. These people are watching. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want the world to know that I was late.
Mama Clump. I would have to actually have the words and the sound so that I can give the other character, whether that be Eddie or another actor, the same energy. Then you had Granny Clump, come on over here, Cletus, Then, of course, you had Sherman Clump, which was actually fun for me because, of course, to me, he was more like the star. It was like in the throat. Buddy Love, Buddy Love. It was became Buddy Love. Come over here. Let me tell you something. What are you doing what are you doing? Let me tell you something else. And there was Papa Clump. Who was that? And now Oprah, I'm gonna tell you something else. Oprah, she got a show of her own. Oprah lost all that weight, neck all skinny.
I don't know what it is. Everybody want to be the same size. Like that Oprah Winfrey. She gonna lose her weight. Wasn't nothing wrong with her. She was fine. Oprah was a fox.
Everything was just all from the throat. So it was a challenge to me because each day that I had to get up in prosthetic makeup for 5 hours, 3.5 to 5 hours, I had to get to the point where I didn't confuse one character with the other one, and I had to really play the character. Of me being Eddie's double brought me into studying him. As I said, looking at his mannerisms, looking at the way he walked, listening to the way he talked. Everything about me had to be Eddie to qualify to pass on film. I began to look at that in my life after 15 years of doubling Eddie, and I realized as a Christian, Jesus is the bright and morning star. Eddie's a star, but Jesus is that bright and morning star. And I put all of this energy into doubling Eddie, into walking like him, into looking like him, where people, when they saw me, they thought it was Eddie. And I began to realize how much of that am I doing for my Savior? Or when people see us, they need to see Christ. The Bible tells us to take off the old man and be clothed with humility and put on the clothes of Christ. It kind of reminds me of going through what we call, our movie says, the works, when you go through hair and foundational makeup and then put on clothes. I had to take off things and put on things to become Eddie. The Bible tells us to do that same thing with Christ, to put off the old man and put on the new man, which is created in righteousness after the image of him that created him. And that's why I feel I owe it to God. When Pastor Jeremy, I thank him for this opportunity to be able to speak. When he asked me to do this, I was like, will you mind sharing your testimony? That's what it's for. God placed me in this business to share these stories that he gave me with someone. So I start making that connection in my life to say, if I have studied Eddie that much, if I studied him, how about I study to show myself approved, a workman unto God? A workman unto God that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. How much do I watch Christ? How much do I study? How much do I put on Christ? How much do I walk as he walked? And one of the interesting things about it is when Peter was warming himself by the fire, One of the persons says, you sound like him. And I thought about that, and I'm thinking, a lot of people said, you know, Virgil, you sound like Eddie sometimes when you're not conscious of it and you just sound like him, because I've been around him so long. Peter denied that he knew Christ. And a lot of times we do that same thing. We're around Christ, but what do we do when we get in public? Do we deny that we know him because we know we've been reading the Bible? But Christ doesn't want us to deny him, because we need to sound like him. Not so much we have him on video as to how he's literally sound, but his word, his truth. He said, my sheep heareth my voice and they know my voice. So I began to look at the relation between my years of doubling Eddie, and it was sort of like, I wouldn't say I felt guilty, but I kind of feel like when I get to the judgment throne of God, God is going to say, you put all that energy into your secular job. So I think that in doubling Eddie, it caused me, as I said, to look at my relationship to Christ and say, how much more for Jesus that we need to walk like him, talk like him, study him, and be a reflection of him in his absence, to where people say, you look like Jesus, you sound like Jesus, you wasn't trying to, it just comes out of us. So all the effort I put into doing and studying and really watching Eddie, I now put that all into Jesus so that he can look at me, being a reflection of himself in me.